Let's take a look at the device itself. Its aesthetics are truly impressive, boasting a very precise and perfectly square exterior design. The front features a seamless glass panel, complemented by an aluminum alloy midframe, and the rear is a skin-friendly plastic backplate. The back is flat, lacking any traditional grips, yet the device's edges are subtly rounded, making it comfortable to hold. However, its ergonomic design elements are minimal. Its primary focus is clearly on portability. The grip feel honestly is rather mediocre. Because the body is crafted from glass, metal, and smooth skin-friendly plastic, the entire device becomes incredibly slick. At times it's quite difficult to hold, constantly feeling as if it's about to slide out of my grasp. The device's build quality is truly exceptional, boasting a structure with a front glass panel, a metal midframe, and a plastic rear cover. This construction closely resembles that of a smartphone, with no visible seams at any of the junctions. Considering its premium price point, the overall build and tactile feel are quite commendable. The device's dimensions are quite compact. Let's measure them. 166mm in length, 78mm in width, 18mm in thickness, and it weighs 303 grams. Its dimensions are quite similar to the popular Miyoo Mini. However, because of its metal midframe and all-glass display panel, its weight actually makes it feel quite substantial, even a bit heavy in the hand, giving a somewhat weighty sensation. Let's look at the button layout. This device uses a D-pad up layout. The D-pad and ABXY buttons use conductive rubber, which feels soft and very comfortable. Pulling off special moves is also quite precise. The buttons are crafted from transparent crystal, which, when paired with the white body of the device, truly enhances its aesthetic appeal and gives it an extra touch of elegance. Both joysticks are Hall effect and support presses. They do have lights, but because the white panel is translucent, I'd suggest lowering their brightness to avoid light pollution distracting you from the screen content. The joystick caps are rather small, ensuring they won't interfere with your movements when you're using the D-pad and ABXY buttons. The bottom left two are the double S keys, and the right are the AYANEO control center and back buttons. All four seem to be micro switches. The bottom left and right have 4 shoulder buttons. L1 and R1 use conductive rubber, which is moderately firm with a long key travel. L2 and R2 are Hall effect triggers, and there are 2 customizable micro switch buttons on the sides. Mid-device, left to right, power button with fingerprint volume keys. Bottom has 2 speakers, center a full-function USB-C port. On the sides of the device, there's another shortcut button on the left that we can customize, and the TF card slot is on the right. The back of the device is flat with no grips. The device has active cooling. This is the air intake, and the air outlet is up top. It has a 4700 mAh battery. The device's button feel and layout are basically flawless. However, I constantly mistake the customizable button on the top left for the power lock screen button, which leads to frequent accidental presses. This is something I'll slowly have to get used to. The grip of this device certainly isn't as good as those with really rounded bodies and controller-like grips on the back. But then again, it's tough to have both portability and ergonomics at the same time. Moreover, the device's body is somewhat overly slick. It definitely requires a matte crystal soft taste, not only to safeguard it, but also to improve its non-slip feel. The screen is a 4.2-inch 4:3 LCD panel with a resolution of 1280 by 960, identical to that of the Miyoo Mini. The screen's bright with great colors, and the LCD backlight bleed is well controlled. There's a little bleed on the bottom edge when the screen is black, but it's not severe. The screen's bottom likely has a ribbon cable, making the chin rather big. A logo inside the chin makes it instantly tacky. The chip used is the Qualcomm G3X Gen 2. Its performance is incredibly strong, surpassing either the 8 Gen 2, or utilizing it in a 4x3 screen device seems somewhat excessive. Since it has a 4x3 screen, playing 4x3 retro console games is this device's main purpose. Because the resolution is high enough, games from various platforms can be displayed with multi-resolution pixel-perfect full-screen display. Retro meets modern, and the visual experience is fantastic.
Oh, wow! Oh, thank you so much! Your detailed explanation has been incredibly helpful in understanding the nuances of this device. I truly appreciate you taking the time to share all this information. This has been very enlightening. The worker, attempting to escape on a motorcycle, has now been successfully captured after the single-lane road was blocked.
Although GBC and GBA games cannot be displayed in full screen, their high resolution allows for a crisp and vibrant display. When you enable the LCD 3X or multi-output settings, you'll be treated to stunning high-definition pixels that are incredibly rich and full. This is truly a blessing for all the gamers out there who absolutely adore pixel-perfect battles and dot-to-dot action. Given it's the ultimate 4x3 machine, PS2 is its biggest test. With the G3X G2 chip playing PS2 games, it's not just optimal, it's total performance overkill. Most PS2 games offer smooth gameplay at 3x or 4x resolution. You can even go higher, but pushing the resolution beyond what the screen can display just leads to unnecessary power consumption. For normal gameplay, I suggest not using high performance mode and just setting it to 2 times resolution, which is plenty. This device can also easily handle 3DS games, but because the screen is a bit small, the dual screen display feels a little cramped. The performance is there, it's just visually straining. If you possess a large 16:9 display or a dual screen portable console, there's absolutely no reason to endure such discomfort. 16:9 PSP games are effortlessly playable. Even at very high resolutions, gameplay remains fluid, though displaying 16:9 on a 4x3 screen is purely a disaster. It's truly best to leave 16:9 games for devices specifically designed for that aspect ratio. However, when it comes to Switch games, this particular device definitely excels, delivering outstanding performance and an excellent experience. With Switch emulators consistently advancing, most Switch games are now perfectly playable. The G3X chip supports a vast library of titles. Take for instance the recent Pokemon Legends ZA. Besides a few minor texture flickers in certain areas, everything else operates smoothly and the frame rate remains remarkably stable. But as I've mentioned before, a 4x3 display isn't truly suitable for 16:9 content, so I really don't recommend using this specific device to play Switch games. Moving further up, though the PS3 emulator is still very much in its early stages and not fully mature, it is certainly possible to enjoy some of the smaller games on it. Despite its immaturity, you can definitely play some of the smaller games. Overall, the AYANEO Pocket S Mini is currently the most powerful small form factor, ultimate 4x3 device. Its super high aesthetic appeal, excellent materials and craftsmanship, super portable size, plus the 4x3 HD iCare LCD screen and the G3X, ultra high performance chip all stack up, ultimately resulting in a less cost-effective price. If you bought AYA devices, you get a 300 Yen coupon. The 8+12 version is $2,299 with a free Air Mini, so the unit itself is about $1,800. For $1,800, you could get a better 16:9 device. The biggest issue with this device is the G3X chip's performance, which is overkill for a 4x3 device. 4x3 devices are bought mainly for PS2, and all you need is enough power to comfortably play at 2x resolution. If this device came out with an 865 version and the price dropped to around $1,500, it would instantly become an affordable dream machine for gamers. That's it for this video. I'm Shiwan Fute. Follow me to discover even more about handheld consoles. Hello fellow gamers. In this video, we'll examine just how much more powerful the G3X Gen 2 chip truly is compared to the 8 Gen 2. The G3X device we're using is the AYANEO Pocket S Mini, and for the 8 Gen 2, it's the RP6. Both have 12 GB of RAM and 256 GB of storage. First, PS2 games. The testing mission remains the stress test in the middle of the 2 flowing corridors in PS2 God of War 1 under identical test conditions. Identical conditions necessitate that all factors remain consistent, including the machine's performance mode, emulator version, emulator settings, game version, specific game scene coordinates, and other such parameters. The 8 Gen 2 at 2x resolution delivers about 52 frames per second, whereas the G3X achieves a perfect 60 frames per second, under these identical test conditions. At this point, a direct comparison is not feasible, as we're unsure if the G3X is precisely at its maximum frame rate or has extra capacity. Therefore, we must increase the resolution of both devices to 6 times their original setting. When the 8 Gen 2 is set to 6x resolution, the frame rate plummets instantly to approximately 38 frames per second. On the other hand, the G3X manages to hit around 43 frames per second under these identical conditions. That's 5 more frames than the 8 Gen 2. Converting that 5 frames into a percentage, a quick calculation shows the G3X is about 13% more powerful than the 8 Gen 2. For the Switch game, we're going to use Breath of the Wild. We'll set it to 2K resolution under identical conditions, then compare the frame rates of the 2 different chips. Now keep in mind, Breath of the Wild in this video is running at 2K resolution. That's a very high resolution, so it won't hit a full frame rate. Let's not get hung up on why these chips can't run the game at a full frame rate. We've made our way to the mushroom that's situated near the colossal tree, just outside the game's initial spawn point. There, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 delivers a respectable frame rate of approximately 21 frames per second, while the G3X manages to achieve a smoother performance at around 25 frames per second. The G3X delivered around 4 additional frames per second compared to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. When this is translated into a percentage, it indicates that the G3X is about 19% more powerful than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Overall, whether it's for PS2 or Switch, the G3X's emulation capability is a significant improvement over the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. That's all for this video.